Charles the intern is running a marathon this weekend.
It's like a mountain marathon.
Oh, yeah. That's the one I was supposed to do. It's the one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to him. He's been training, right? He's like, I ran from my apartment, ran up Slate Canyon, then ran up to the Y, and then ran up Rock Canyon, up to Squaw Peak or Kite
he's
Peak,
a monster.
and then ran back down. It was, I don't know, 20 miles, I think. Something.
I've never done
running.
20. The most I've done on a trail is 15 miles.
That's a lot.
It's crazy.
Yeah, the stamina that takes. Incredible.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. What's going on, everybody? This is the HIG Podcast. I'm Matty P, here with your host, Bronson Kafusi. What's up, Bronson?
Hey, what's going on?
How you doing, man?
Doing great.
Hey, I've heard a lot of talk around the office about this charity event.
Oh, yes. It's a charity flag football event with NFL players. So it's pretty cool. I've gone down and played in Aaron Rodgers charity flag football event down in Southern California in the off season, and it's been really good. And so we're gonna do the same thing, 4-on-4 flag football in between the numbers, 40 yards.
Nice.
And people donate or buy teams, and then they get to build their own roster. And they can bring whoever they want on their roster. And lots of times they bring about 5 or 6 NFL guys, and then you play against NFL guys.
That's so
sometimes
cool.
you look silly, sometimes you don't. Everyone looks silly out there when you're playing against NFL guys, but it's a lot of fun. People get to be on the field. They can be if they buy a VIP ticket. They can be on the field literally and watch NFL guys do their thing. It's a lot of fun.
Wow, that's cool. And that's here in Utah.
It's here in Utah, Skyridge, June 21st. It's called Charity of Champions.
Charity of Champions.
It's on Instagram, so check it out for updates.
Skyridge is in Lehigh, Utah?
It's in Lehigh. There's over 400 former NFL players within 90 minutes of Salt Lake City on the NFLPA's database. So we'll have a lot of those players there. And then we'll have a lot of the younger players that are currently playing, or guys that have just barely got out or are kind of in that in between. They'll be there playing. So yeah, it's gonna be really good. We'll have some great athletes there. Zach Moss, Britton Covey, Danny Sorensen, Ziggy Ansah, the Vigil brothers from Utah State that played in the league for a while. Alani Fua, Saitautu. So there's already right there just a few Super Bowl winners right there. So it'll be great. Yeah.
Man, sounds like fun. And tell me again, when is the event happening?
June 21st.
June 21st, so it's coming up.
We may have one team available if someone's interested, maybe. It's first come, first serve. We're only doing 6 teams. It's a very small group. Instagram
is the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah.
What's the handle again?
Oh, yeah. The handle is Charity of Champions.
Charity of Champions.
Yep.
All right.
It's a white background with black wording. So, and you'll see a bunch of NFL players on there.
Sweet. So check it out.
Check it out.
Send a message if you have any questions. Bronson will get back to you.
And winner gets bragging rights till next year. Are you doing it again?
You know what? We got some cool prizes for the winner. Yeah, we got, I don't know if I can even say it on here. Maybe you should be surprised, but let's just say the swag. So every player gets a swag bag, and then the winner is going to have some very unique swag. Yeah, very high level swag.
Swag bags are fun. High level swag bags are even better.
And awards. It's a high level swag specific to the winners. So it's going to be good.
So it's every dad's dream to play football with a NFL football player.
Or pick off an NFL football player. Or
pull their
break an NFL player's ankle. I'm just kidding. Do a little juke. Boom.
So Charity of Champions.
Charity of Champions.
Nice. And speaking of champions, we have a champion here with us today, a champion of 1031s.
He is a champion of 1031s.
Nice segue, right?
That was a fantastic segue. And not quite as cool as Bronson's football tournament, but we'll take it.
Kyle Turner, your friend Kyle. What's going on, Kyle?
Hey, doing well. Glad to be here.
It's good to have you back again. This episode is kind of a momentous episode. It's episode 28, which doesn't say much, but I think a year ago is when we first recorded our first episode. So we've been doing this for a little over a year.
Yeah.
The 1-year anniversary.
Yeah, and by a bi-weekly podcast, we're actually ahead of the curve because we've done more than, 26, 27. I don't know.
Pretty good.
Math is not my strong suit, but a year in, bi-weekly podcast.
Pretty good.
Here we go. Yeah. And Kyle, when I say he's a champion of 1031 exchanges, he actually is. He's done more than almost anybody that I've met, minus maybe Jason. I don't know. Have you done more 1031s than Jason?
Definitely not. I've done a fair few,
Okay.
And we've helped a couple people pull off some 1031 exchanges, but Jason is definitely going to have the record on that one.
So
She started earlier. That's why.
Yeah.
It's not a race.
We should make him a trophy.
Yeah, we should. The 1031 champ.
There's a lot of questions surrounding 1031 exchanges. I know I didn't know a lot about them initially. I've had the chance and the pleasure to sit down with Kyle a few times in the past few months. And I feel like every time we have a conversation about 1031 exchanges, I learn more. There's like this aspect, and then there's this wait time, and then there's this property and that property. So we're going to talk about 1031 exchanges with the master, your friend Kyle.
And you're setting the bar pretty high, but a 1031 is a great tool in your tool belt. And for those who don't know what it is, let's just say that you own a rental property, you've had it for a couple years, and there could be a bunch of different reasons you'd want to look to do something else with it. Say it's gone up in value quite a bit, and there's a lot of equity sitting in the property. You're moving.
Give us an example of, and when you say equity, tell us, like, let's say, okay, I'll throw an example out. Okay, I bought a $500,000 house or apartment or something. We'll say I put down $100,000, and now I'm going to sell it for $1 million. Walk us through equity and all of that, because I think people need to know what that means.
Yeah, no, great point to bring up. So in that scenario, you bought it for 500, put down 100, so your debt balance is 400K, but now it's worth $1 million, meaning that there's $600,000 in equity. Well, on that townhome, if it's in Utah, maybe you're renting it out for $3,000 to $4,000 a month. After expenses, you're probably making $500, $600 a month on $600,000 worth of equity. When you do the math on that, it works out to where you're making 1%, 2%, 3% in cash flow on that property, which not a ton of cash flow you're making. And so in some situations you look at it and say, what's the return on the equity in that property? And in that situation, 1 or 2%, not a great return on the equity in the property. Maybe you'd still keep the property because it's sentimental or there's a bunch of other reasons. But a 1031 exchange is a way for you to sell that property, roll that $600K in equity into something else with the intent to try and re-leverage and enhance the return that you're getting. And so the benefit of doing a 1031 is that it's a tax deferred, it's a tax-free exchange. So normally when you sell a property, you have to pay capital gains on the increase in value of the property. But if you put those funds into something new, you can avoid the taxes, you can keep more of your own money, so that money can keep working hard for you and making more cash flow, appreciation, or for some people, some great tax benefits.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So, okay. So going back to the example, I have the 600K worth of equity, and I'm going to go and 1031 that. What are some things I can 1031 into? Because I'm taking that money and exchanging it into another like kind asset. So explain all of that to us, because we don't know what that means.
So the IRS would like to see that it's going into something they'd call real property. So if you're selling a condo or townhome, you could put that into another condo or townhome. You could put it into a fourplex, duplex, apartment building, gas station, commercial office building, land, anything that would be considered real property. And you can go pull up a list on the IRS's website. Basically, most real estate is going to qualify and fit within that world. And so it could be a bunch of different things. It could be a gas station, it could be a truck stop, it can be an office building. A ton of different things you can put that money into.
Real estate property. It
Real
doesn't just have to
property.
be from a condo to a condo.
It does not have to go condo to condo. You can go from condo to land or condo to apartment complex.
Or land to
Land back to a condo. So you can
goes
keep
both
moving
ways.
that money around. Yeah.
I think a lot of people forget that is, sometimes land just is naturally appreciating. And there's a lot of people that own a lot of land, especially the baby boomers right now. I'm noticing there's a lot of those people own a ton of land, and I get called a lot. Hey, can I put my land into a gas station? And I get that question a lot. So maybe you could touch on that.
Yeah, and land's a great use case because some people, they'll have land and they can rent it out and earn some income on it if somebody's doing agricultural work on it. If there's, some aspect of a farm, they're growing corn or hay, or there's something on it that can generate some income. In some instances, though, there's no income being derived from the property and you're just paying property taxes and possibly some insurance, to where the property is just losing money. And so maybe you want to keep it because it is appreciating, but cash on cash, it's probably a net negative return in lots of instances. And so that could be a reason why somebody would want to look to diversify away from that to something that's cash producing instead of something that's absorbing lots of their cash. So land is a great use case. Land is something that you can roll into something else. And with us specifically, we do a lot with gas stations and truck stops. That can be a great option to look at. But there's other things you can consider as well. It's the whole world of essentially real estate could be an option to roll those funds into.
Yeah. One thing that's super powerful too, going from land to gas stations or multifamily, especially when you're doing a value add play, is, man, you are going into a strong forced appreciation asset. So you get strong cash flow. You get a strong exit. I feel like a lot of people don't realize that it's even available. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'd agree. And lots of people don't realize that they have options with their property. They just see that I was given this property 50 years ago from my great grandpa who was a farmer. It's gone up in value a ton. I don't want to pay the taxes on it, so I'm just going to keep sitting on it indefinitely. And at some point, pass it on to my kids. They'll receive a step up in cost basis. But you could do something else with that. And a lot of people too who are sitting on farmland, raw land, it's something that even as they approach retirement, it would be great to have a supplemental source of income. So all that equity they have sitting in a property that's not doing much for them because it's raw land, if they can repurpose it to a cash producing property, that's a great way to have supplemental retirement income. And you can still own the same amount of real estate. You can still have that same bucket of equity, but instead of it being a cash drain with taxes, it can be a net positive where it's making you actual money.
I love it. Maybe something you could cover for us, Kyle, is, okay, let's say I got that property. I'm going to sell for $1 million now, right? I got $600K in equity. How does that 1031 actually work? What's actually going to happen? Because I know there's
a
dates
process.
and times.
Yeah.
You have days to identify your property, right? You have there's certain things in place. Could you cover that and talk to us on that?
Yeah, let's talk to you about your scenario, Bronson. So you have this townhome you want to get rid of. You think you can do something else with the money. So you go and talk to a real estate agent and they list your property for sale. Mm-hmm. Now, when they list your property for sale, you're going to probably start looking around, but you're not on the clock yet. The IRS does set some deadlines and timeframes that you need to meet. So say somebody comes along, they put an offer, you go under contract on your townhome. Typically, a closing period is going to be 30 days, where it's going to take somebody some time to secure either their financing, figure out title work to close on your property. Now, once you have your property under contract, you're going to want to start looking a little bit more on what you could put the money into, but you're still not really on the clock. And so the day that your property closes and the ownership changes from you to somebody else, that's when you're on the clock with the IRS. And so at that point, you have 45 days to go and identify something new to put that money into. The IRS will let you identify a couple different places you could put the funds. It doesn't mean you have to put money into everything you identify, but they want to see within 45 days, you pick where you're going to send the money. And then in total, you have 180 days from the time you close. So about 6 months to have that money actually invested in that new replacement property. So you want to make sure that you're on top of those deadlines. You're working with what they call a qualified intermediary. So when you sell the property, the IRS doesn't want that money to go to your own bank account. You need to work with an intermediary who's going to hold that money for you. So they'll put it in a separate account so you don't physically take possession of the funds. They'll hold the money for you, and they'll be the one who initiates a wire or funds the next investment. So as long as the money doesn't touch your own bank account, the IRS is happy. You can cross off and you meet those criteria. But those are the things that you need to do. It's you have a 45-day identification window, 180 days. But then the main thing is make sure the money doesn't go to your account. You're working with a qualified intermediary, a 1031 exchange company who's going to hold the funds for you.
Qualified intermediary. It's not like your grandma or your parents. There are actual businesses that are set up around this, correct?
Your grandma could be very qualified, and she could be an intermediary, but she's not a technical qualified intermediary. So it's an actual type of business, and there's a bunch that will help facilitate 1031 exchanges and hold funds for you, but it's an actual type of business that you'd be looking for. But your grandma, she's very qualified, just not in this instance. So don't send your grandma money.
I got a question for you, Kyle. I get asked this a lot. I'd love for you to answer it. What if I don't want to, do I have to 1031 all the money, all the equity, all that 600K into whatever deal I want to go into? Or can I 1031 500 of it and have another 100 go somewhere else?
So there's a scenario you're going to run into some taxes, and it gets complicated, and you'd work with your 1031 exchange company, and they'll help walk you through based on what your sales price is, how much debt there are, if maybe there could be some money that could come off the table, or if it's going to be taxable to you. And so the answer is maybe, maybe not. You'd want to consult based on what the scenario is. What the IRS wants to see is that you're replacing the property value. So if you're selling $1 million worth of property, you're going to need to go and buy $1 million worth of property. If there was $400K in debt on the selling property, the thing that you sold, you're going to need to have at least that amount of debt into the new property. You're just transferring your basis from one property to the next one. And so there's different ratios they're looking at. And so based on your scenario, a 1031 intermediary, they could walk you through and see based on the debt and the equity what some of those options could be.
Man, that's great. That's awesome. So, okay. So we've identified the property. We're using our qualified intermediary. Everything's going good. Okay. All of a sudden, the property falls through, and I've seen this scenario happen a lot. That 180-day window, they're on day 150, and they give you a call, Kyle. What's happening in your mind? Right, I need help, Kyle. I got to place this money.
Yeah, that would be tough. It's you had to identify a couple properties. Usually it's 3 properties you'd identify within that first 45 days. The whole point of it is to have backups because things do fall through.
You're planning ahead for that.
But, if you're that much further, if you're an extra 100 plus days past that identification windows, those other 2 options may have fallen through as well. And so that is a risk you could potentially run. And so you want to make sure there's a high likelihood you're going to be able to close on what you're putting the money into. You can't go and re-identify new properties at day 150. You'd be in a tough situation. So when individuals are doing 1031 exchanges with our company, we'll go through and we'll identify a number of properties that we know specifically we're going to be closing on, so they have options and that we have backup properties that we could use as alternatives. And so it is important to make sure that you have a high degree of confidence that the things you're identifying actually could work out.
I love that, because a real estate firm like Harris Investment Group is like, we have a whole team looking at deals all the time. There's a lot of options on the table, and the firms are happy to help people, especially Harris Investment Group. I mean, we're having conversations about 1031 every week. So if there's someone right now that's like, I'm about to 1031, how does it work with the gas stations? Is that like kind? Does it work? Maybe you could walk us through that scenario.
Yep, so it does work. A gas station, a truck stop. We do a lot of that here at Harris. And so those do work. If you have a duplex or fourplex that you've owned for a while, has a bunch of equity where it's gone up in value, you're tired of maybe managing the property, you're looking for outsourcing or other options, we like to view ourselves as a resource to where come and present, show us the property, and we can just show you if maybe it makes sense for you to roll the money into something new. Maybe it doesn't. But at least we can give you some ideas. So the main point is giving you some options and things that you could consider. And so we'll meet with people often where they'll show us their real estate holdings. And sometimes it doesn't make sense for them to roll it into something new. They are doing a decent job on the properties they have, but sometimes it really does. And so the process, when it does make sense for somebody, what we need to do with the 1031 exchange is the individual that owns the property that's being sold, the ownership needs to remain the same. So the IRS wants to see that what is the owner of the selling property is the same as the owner on the new purchased property. And so what our company does is the way we facilitate that is we have individuals who end up on the title for the property that we're purchasing. So our lenders typically let us have around 5 individuals who are on the title for the property. So if you're on the title of what's being sold, you're on the title of what's being bought, that checks the box in saying that you're transferring ownership cleanly. That's a reason why that a 1031 wouldn't work into a fund. Is in a fund, the fund is an LLC, it's some kind of entity. Well, that entity is what ends up on the title for the property. Bronson, who was selling the property, whose name's on the title of what you're selling, you're just an investor in an LLC, and the LLC is on the title, and so the title doesn't match up. It's not feasible to do a 1031 into a fund, but the way we facilitate that is we allow investors to actually get on the title with us for some of these properties.
Yeah, which is awesome. I think that's unique, and a lot of family offices really love that because being on title is important.
It's not offered by everybody either.
It is not offered by everybody. Yeah,
it's an option that I think is kind of unique to what we do.
It is unique. You don't come across it too often, and it does create options. It does create more work for our company. There's a lot more that goes into it, but it's definitely a big value add for our investors. And if it makes sense, it could be something that's valuable for individuals. It's a great way to outsource. So I have a bunch of rental properties myself, and it just creates a lot of work. The more tenants you have, the more potential things there are that are going to go wrong. You know, I don't love getting the calls about the fridge, the toilet, so-and-so parked in my parking spot. I don't love getting those phone calls. And the more rentals I have, the more appealing it is to be able to roll those funds into something that would be fully self-managed. So the properties that we have, they are fully self-managed. The investor is a passive investor. They don't have to do anything for the property. They just sit back and let us manage the asset for them. So we deal with the tenants, we deal with the issues that could come up with ownership. And so that's a huge value add, and it's one for me personally, and I see a lot of value in, because I don't like dealing with tenant calls. My tenants are great, but the less I can hear from them, sometimes the better.
That's what pushed me over the edge. The washing machine flooded and there was water everywhere, and it's like, it actually happened twice at a rental unit that I own. So I was like, all right, let's just sell this thing.
Those things happen. Maintenance issues are always going to come up. There's always going to be something, but it's knowing that, man, it would be so nice if somebody else could take these calls instead of me, where I didn't have to worry about dealing with, for a flood, maybe some renovation. I've had instances where you have to go and find lodging for tenants because their units are offline. It's a pain. And so for you, it totally makes sense that I don't blame you. I'd be in your same boat, and if it can get you a similar return, or especially if it can get you a better return to where you don't have to do anything for it, it's kind of win-win for everybody.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, having that headache removed of the upkeep. We talked a little bit about the tax advantages. What does that look like long-term? How does that look long-term? If you 1031 into an investment, 5 years go by, the investment sells, you have, your name you were on the title as because you 1031'd into it. What's the next move after that?
So a 1031 just lets you kick the tax can down the road. So the taxes that could be due don't go away. You're just deferring, you're kicking it down the road. And so if you do a 1031 now, roll the money into something new, the benefit of doing that is instead of having to pay a capital gain, a 20% tax, you can have 20% more money invested in the new opportunity because you didn't have to break off 20% for the IRS. So you have more of your money at work, more of your money growing, more of your money making money. And so it can start to compound that pot of money. Now, after the second property, if you did decide to sell it, and you didn't want to do a new 1031 exchange, well, the gains that you had from that first original property, you're going to likely end up paying taxes on that depending on the sale price. So the tax doesn't necessarily go away. You're just kicking that tax can down the road. The whole idea is that what you're rolling the money into, it can provide you cash flow, it can provide you appreciation. There are ways to access the money that don't create tax events. So there's ways to borrow against properties to access some of those funds. But in general, if you ever do sell the properties, there will be a tax bill that could be due. So you're not making the taxes go away. You're just keeping more of your money to let it compound and grow.
Gotcha. Is there ever a scenario where you can kick that tax burden down the road and then get to a point where it's eliminated? Like if you invested in certain investments that had tax write-offs?
There's some strategies involved there. I've talked to some different trust attorneys, and there's some strategies. They're very unique. And it's pretty intensive on the planning side.
Gotcha.
But they're there.
Well, I have heard Jason say that it's non-transferable, meaning once you pass away, that's not going to fall to your kids. Right.
Yep, there's
so
a step up in basis.
Kick it down the road forever until you die.
And then your kids don't have to pay taxes on it. So say you turned $100K into $20 million because you're kicking that tax can. Well, when your kids inherit the money, they could go and dump it today and pull that whole whatever amount of money is out. They don't have to worry about the taxes.
Interesting.
So that is nice. So that's one way you can avoid the tax bill. There's some other unique strategies like Bronson's talking about, things you could maybe do with opportunity zones. But in general, it would be tough. And so the main thing is if you are doing 1031s, just to realize that if you don't want to realize that tax, you'll probably want to keep the money in real estate. And so that's why you want to make sure you're buying good properties that cash flow, that are providing income for you, because that's a way to return some of that money to you.
I think that's one of the most important things. When I think of 1031, I just think of you're just feeding this monster that just keeps eating and eating. But the best part about it is it's an income play. Like, can I create this giant machine that just is sending me money every month?
And the more money you have in that machine, the more money is working for you. It's the momentum.
Yes, right? Yes. And if I can do that, and now how I execute growing this machine, there's a lot of variability. I can do it myself. I can 1031 into different firms like Harris Investment Group. I can, there's just different ways to execute the machine, but the overall principle is the same. Let it grow and let it create income every month. And, I feel like a lot of people, especially in America today, want the income play, especially during the current environment. And so, I feel like that's why a lot of the 1031s I'm seeing, they're 1031ing into more income plays, more so than growth.
Like something with a triple net lease.
Yeah.
Truck stop, gas station.
Yeah. With people who are great operators.
Yeah, and I guess to go back to your example, you're sharing Bronson.
Yeah.
That original townhome, you have $600K in equity. In all reality, it's probably making $6,000 to $12,000 a year in net cash flow to you as an investor. Well, if you could roll that same $600K into an investment that's paying 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9% in cash flow, you go from $12,000 in cash flow to 30, 40, maybe even more worth of income. And if you can do it to where you're outsourcing the management to where the townhome you're managing yourself, but now somebody else manages it, so you can make more money. You can remove work that you were doing. It's kind of a no-brainer. It's kind of a win-win. And for me, I've had a number of those where I've started off on a duplex a number of years ago. I was making $200 a month in cash flow. Not a ton. Over the years, just that same pot of money, just taking it from this property to the next one, to the next one. Like, I know of one specifically, one pot of money that started at $200 a month is now, for me, at $2,000 a month, to where I've been able to 10x it without having to pay taxes, because I've just rolled it from this to this, now to another property, and just being able to re-leverage the funds and grow that pot of money that's making money for me.
Oh, the mindset there is so good, the disciplined mindset. It's like, that's why real estate is so powerful, because you have a lot of control. B, you can keep going up with it, and it's great. There's always options. That's the best thing. And it's a hard asset, and I love real estate. So shout out to real estate. We appreciate you.
Thanks, real estate's great.
Yeah. Wherever you are.
This podcast is brought to you by real estate.
Wow, this was great, Kyle. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me
on. Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of questions about 1031, and we'll have them all, reach out. So if you do have a question for Kyle about 1031s, or if you want Kyle to look at your real estate portfolio and run through it with you, reach out, contact at harrisinvestmentgroup.com, and send us those questions.
It's worth looking into at some point. If you haven't looked at your current holdings, it could be worth a second look. The real estate market has done well. It's pulled back some recently, but most people are still up a fair amount over the last couple of years, to where maybe it does make sense at looking at repositioning some of that. So feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to chat.
Yeah, I will personally vouch for Kyle. I have sat down with him and spoken 1031 exchange lingo. I have referred personal friends to him as well who have had great experiences, and he's just a smart, knowledgeable guy. So take us up on this offer. It'd be worth your time.
It's always great to talk to your friend, Kyle.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
A friend to all. Thanks for being here, Kyle.
Anytime.
It's always nice having you on. Oh, we didn't talk about Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter.
Dang it.
Okay, here. Okay. I went to New Zealand, and when I went there with my wife, and I saw the Shire. I'll tell you what, you could 1031 Bilbo's house for a lot of money.
That's a lot of gas stations.
Yeah, we're gonna 1031 his. Yeah, we're gonna 1031 all of Hobbiton, the Shire.
All right.
Yeah, but You get 1031 some cool stuff with that house. It's nice. These Hobbit houses are nice, guys. They're under the hill.
The owner of Lord of the Rings is listening. I actually don't know if you could transfer New Zealand assets into the U.S. I'm not sure about that, but let's try it.
Don't worry, we got the legal
figure it
thing
out.
coming in.
We'll find a way. There you go.
The HIG podcast expresses the views of its participants and may not represent the views of Harris Investment Group. The views discussed are subject to change without notice. The HIG podcast has no duty or obligation to update the information contained herein. It should not be assumed that past investment performance discussed is an indication of future results. Wherever there is the potential for profit, there is also the potential of loss. This is the very nature of investing. The HIG podcast and its affiliates do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. The information shared on this podcast should not be construed as an offering, advisory service, or investment advice. Consult your own tax, legal, and accounting advisors before engaging in any transaction. This podcast, including the information contained herein, is the sole property of Harris Investment Group and may not be copied, reproduced, republished, or posted in whole or in part without the prior written consent of Harris Investment Group.